Hello? I'm in my late 30s. I've always had girlfriends, but never felt confident enough to get married. So I've been living single. I majored in Chinese and lived in China for over 5 years. At the request of an acquaintance last summer, I started tutoring a first grader named Oliver in Chinese. Oliver, having graduated from an English kindergarten, speaks English well, but was also eager to learn Chinese. So I was introduced by a mutual friend to tutor him. I happily agreed to also help him prepare for Chinese proficiency exams. Oliver's family home was quite spacious and well organized. When I first met Oliver's mother, I was struck by her beauty. She looked like she was in her mid-20s, though she said she was in her early 30s, having married right after college. She was slim and tall, easily over 5'7". Oliver, taking after his mother, was a handsome boy with distinct features. He was a bright child, understanding more than what was taught, doing his homework well and having good pronunciation. He has a 3-year-old sister who was incredibly cute. I heard Oliver's grandmother lived in the same apartment complex and would often come over to look after her grandchildren. I had the chance to meet her during my first lesson. Oliver's mother mentioned she needed to go to a community center for her daughter's class, so she asked her mother to stay with Oliver during our Chinese lessons. Oliver's grandmother, also quite beautiful, seemed to have passed down her looks. She mentioned she was preparing to become a senior model and needed to practice for interviews in English and Chinese. After Oliver's lesson, she expressed a desire to have private lessons at her place on a different day, since she needed to look after her granddaughter. I informed her of my availability, and we agreed on weekly lessons every Friday afternoon at her home. Despite offering a family discount, she insisted on paying the full price, mentioning she heard her grandson was enjoying the lessons and learning well. She humbly asked for patience as she might learn slower due to her age. I learned she was in her mid-50s, but she was very motivated and had surprisingly good pronunciation, and it was lovely to see her practice consistently. She mentioned she had a lot to do besides foreign language interviews. For starters, she takes care of her appearance and gets treatments at a local skincare clinic. She also makes it a point to shower at home and apply a facial mask every day. She offered to help me with a mask after class when we had a moment, and I agreed. You just have to sit in a chair and apply it, but lying down on the couch and relaxing for 20 minutes works too, she said. Having only ever used lotion my whole life, that day was my first time trying a face mask. I didn't like the cold feeling of the mask sheet on my face, but after washing it off, my skin tone seemed noticeably brighter. Having a job that requires a lot of talking, my throat often feels scratchy, and I need to present a clean appearance to my students. Realizing I hadn't been taking care of my skin made me think I should start. None of my past girlfriends ever paid attention to my skin, but I found Oliver's grandmother to be quite thoughtful. One day after class, she showed me a home workout channel on YouTube. The exercises looked easy to follow at a glance. "Would you like to try it?" she asked. So we turned on the smart TV in the living room and started exercising. It looked easy, but I was sweating profusely after a while. As I was fanning myself, she said, "I'm sweating too, so I'm going to take a quick shower. You should take one too," and went to the bedroom. I never imagined what would happen next when we exercised. I noticed her body didn't have an ounce of fat. Impressive for someone in her 50s. The bathroom had a pleasantly scented soap, not some cheap supermarket brand, but a pretty natural soap. After lightly washing up and changing clothes, she came out in a cute home dress. Honestly, I was a bit smitten. It was my first time feeling this way about an older woman. Thanks to Oliver's grandmother, I got to do a face mask and exercise. It was so much fun, I said as I was leaving. She looked at me and said, "If you have time, let's have a beer." I was planning to have a beer at home anyway, so it worked out well, and I sat down on the couch. She brought out homemade sweet potato chips and stout. I've been having so much fun preparing to be a senior model. I've always exercised and taken care of my skin, but studying with you has been such a joy, she said. Her mood turned somber as she recalled her late husband. She mentioned that Oliver's mom passed away from a terrible illness within 2 months of getting sick while she was in college. The thought of living without her husband was daunting, but she smiled and said that those who are left behind must go on living. She moved closer to her daughter to alleviate her loneliness by spending time with her grandchildren. She also mentioned that becoming a senior model was her son-in-law's suggestion, noting that she hadn't seen anyone her age with such good skin and youthful appearance. I cautiously asked if she still felt lonely without her husband. She admitted that while being busy with her grandchildren keeps her mind off her late husband, she feels truly alone when she returns home. She expressed skepticism about the men others have tried to introduce to her, wishing for someone cultured like me. Our connection was undeniable, and by the next morning, I had come to my senses. Unable to wait for our next lesson, I found myself at her house late at night. I'm unsure if it's appropriate to continue this relationship with my student. She's been widowed for over 10 years and hinted at the difficulty of those years, making it hard for me to leave her alone.